Have you ever had a dream which you were so certain was real that you wasn't quite sure if you were dreaming? Hi there guys, my name is Ryan JC and I'm here today to give you a brand new spanking new video of 2015. In this video I'm going to be talking about something that a lot of you have probably already had, because just yesterday actually a friend of mine phoned me after having a session with me at my house, a learning session, a teaching session, and to do with the consciousness, the subconscious, because he was having trouble remembering his dreams, and just the other day he phoned me and he was in shock. Okay, he was in shock. The reason why he was in shock was because he had a dream. But it wasn't a normal dream, okay? It was not a normal dream. Because recently we've been discovering ways of putting our consciousness back in time to, I guess you can say, relive memories or relive moments or events in certain points of space in order to see if we can change the outcome of the future. And now, what does this sound like? Well, a lot of you may think this sounds like what that guy does with Butterfly Effect, Ashton Kutcher, right? And you wouldn't be wrong. You wouldn't be wrong in saying that. You've actually seen this in a few videos, or I have anyway, not just in Butterfly Effect, but also in the new X-Men movie, where Wolverine goes backwards, reenacts certain events within history in order to change the outcome of certain events, right? So after he told me his story, which was he said he was living in High Wycombe in the 1920s or 30s, and that there were train tracks in the middle of the roads. So instantly I went on my phone and I started looking at this, and what I found was pretty staggering, because there were tramways that went down at the bottom of Amersham Hill, which is where he said it was, where these trams, which looked like kind of like trains, went across the train tracks, which looked like train tracks, the tram tracks in the middle of the roads. And from somebody who's from the present, it wouldn't surprise me if they thought, you know, these look like train tracks, if they used the terminology of train tracks. But he was dead on, and I showed him the photos, I sent it in via mail, and he was excited because he's always discovering the potential for his own possibility, or the possibilities of his own potential. In future upcoming sessions with me, when I was teaching him how to move in such a way throughout his subconscious in order to gain these abilities. Now, a lot of people have been asking me about this particular subject on my emails, and I have promised them, so this is my promise come to fruition, a video that has enough substance, enough information, which tells these people who are interested in this kind of thing what I've done through my experience and what you could potentially change in your life in order to come about these same type of experiences so that you can access greater depths of information. So last night, or this morning rather, I made it a clear decision to, when I come up with a video, or when I come up with information or a new source of ways of doing something or a new ascension ability, I would try my hardest to make a video on it on the same or the next day, if possible, so that it's still fresh in my mind and I'm still excited about it enough to tell you how to do it properly. Because in that sense of the word properly, then you'll know exactly 100% how I did it and how you're going to be able to do it in the future. So what I did was pretty simple last night. And this is to do with dreams, first of all. I'm going to cover dreams first, and I'll cover what I just told you at the beginning, and how to get into those sorts of states of consciousness. But this all deals with things which, when you start astral projecting, this is the route, or this is the progression period which you're going to experience, okay? So the first things that happen, what normally happens to normal people, it happened to me, is you have a state of consciousness when you go to bed where you're unconscious, right? You're completely unconscious, and this is a problem because when you're completely unconscious, what happens is your body is vibrating at the frequencies of the ether, or of the thoughts and suggestions and programmed energies which are filtering through every other unconscious soul on the planet. And the reason why this is a problem is because these energies depict on what the person does, how he views the world, the limits he puts on himself, or he or she, and the experiences that they're going to go through. Now, on this earth at the moment, most people are going through the cycles, the old cycles of sex, violence, very animalistic, material possession, based society that's based on survival, right? So it's a very fear-based society. And the problem with this is because when you're unconscious and you're filtering through the stuff into your vessel, your computer, your main hard drive, the programs which are being processed through the brain via the eyes and the senses, your external reality will then take shape and take form of the energy which you're filtering through, right? Of the programs that you're filtering through, right? So what happens is you tend to experience a reality which isn't so diverse from everyone else because you start experiencing their own reality. So you start experiencing the fear-based realities, you start experiencing the sexual desire realities, you start experiencing materialistic realities, and those three big ones are the ones that are going to get you killed. They're the ones that are going to make you suffer. They're the ones which deal with the most pain. If you're always wondering what people think about you, you're always trying to be like somebody else, you're never going to embrace yourself. You're never going to embrace the light that's inside, which is your actual real consciousness. Your real consciousness breaks apart off of itself and it becomes the energy. It gives life to the energy that you're putting through your vehicle, which is everyone else's energy, which means that you're basically giving energy a consciousness, an entity, which then takes over your own consciousness, and you start to believe that you are who you are when really you're not who you think you are. So you end up acting out as this entity, this materialistic, sexual desired, animalistic, survival-based entity. Okay, so you need to detach from that entity which you have created over years through misunderstanding of how energy works through in your body. And I'm going to try to talk a bit slower now because I'm seeing I'm kind of speeding up. I'm going to talk a bit slower so you get what I'm saying. Once you detach from that entity, that energy, which you've mistaken for your own personality, you start to question who you actually are. And when you start questioning who you actually are, that voice that told you to question it, that is deep within your soul, that's deep within your being, and that is who you actually are. And what you'll find is you'll start shredding all these negative experiences, or the sexual desires, or everything. You start shredding those personalities, and what happens is you start to lose friends. This is all good by the way, you start to lose friends, you start to make new friends who vibrate on the same truth path or foreseeing future that they want to sustain for themselves, which makes their life a lot more easier. What also happens is, with the sexual desire thing going on, you don't find women attractive, or men attractive if you're female listening to this. What happens instead is you find a female, or you found a guy, you look at them dead in the eyes, and rather than feeling sexually aroused, what happens is your heart explodes, and it feels a lot better. It's like you, from your heart up, it's like someone kicked open a window, and you feel a tremendous amount of connection. I don't want to say the word love, because a lot of people nowadays have a very misconstrued perception on what that actually is. But it's like you can breathe again. And a lot of people who get in relationships, they tend to be with the other spouse, and they tend to think that, okay, if it's your best friend who's in a relationship, you tend to think that your best friend is changing, or that the girlfriend's trying to change your best friend, or the guy's trying to change the girl. And really what's happening is that guy, they're entering such a state of unconditional being, of unconditional love, that what happens is their ego tends to dissolve and they become who they actually are. So it's not the fact that they're losing them, that they're taking your friends away, or they're making them change. What's happening is that person's just evolving on such a high level that he's just becoming themselves. And a lot of people don't like to see that, because a lot of people like to be around miserable people, like that saying, misery loves company. So a lot of people don't want to see this happen to their friends, because they know that if they start excelling at such a high rate, they're not going to see their friends anymore. They're going to go and do greater, better, grander stuff, and they're going to have a lot more spiritualistic, growthful, nurturing lifestyle, which is way more better than the lifestyle that they used to be in, which is fear, chaos, and you name it, all kinds of anarchy that plagues the mind of unconscious modern day society. But what tends to happen next is, because of all that going on in your subconscious, your dreams will reflect that. And you'll end up creating dreams from your subconscious, which put you in certain experiences in your dreams, which are very what's the word? Degrading and self-damaging to the soul. You'll end up acting out experiences in your dreams which support negative belief systems, which keep you trapped in a certain state of dogma, which is living to other people's expectations. No matter how limited their expectation of you is, you'll start living at that expectation. If someone says you're stupid, you're going to think you're stupid. That's only because your subconscious mind or your consciousness is so unconscious that you're actually living by dogma. A lot of people do that a lot. It's one of the fastest ways to just to shrink and dissolve and depress and compress and end up in a state of depression when you end up living a life which is not of your complete design. You end up living like a drone like everyone else. And your dreams become a nightmare, which support these basic fundamental factors. Now, as long as you know how to get out of this nightmare, you're fine. That's the normal state of being that most people are at when it comes to dreams, right? Now, the next stage of progression is lucidity, which a lot of people nowadays on my YouTube channel are going through. Lucidity. What does this mean? This means you get into a dream, and then you realize that everyone else in the dream is nothing more than a reflection of you. You start remembering memories of your past life, which is another state of consciousness, which puts you in another experience of third dimensional reality. You start to remember and you start waking up to the fact that what you're in right now is a dream. And then because you're lucid, you can then find loopholes within the dream in order to make certain things happen, such as flight, levitation, walking through walls, pushing thoughts into people's heads, making people do, say, and think whatever you want. Next thing you know, you can vibrate your frequency within the lucidity in order to attract certain people within that state of being, within that dream. And then you can start experiencing whatever you like. That's the next stage, which a lot of people are at. And then you get to the stage which I was at, and which I can get into whenever I like. And this is the stage I'm actually teaching people on my channel, which is astral projection. Now, an astral projection being, an astral projection state of being, is a type of person who's able to leave their body. And as a result, they're able to enter higher planes of existence and dimensions where other beings of energy and light reside in. Okay? Now, without putting too much more emphasis or any more information upon astral projection in this episode, I want to talk to you guys about something that's going to happen to you after astral projection. You get to 3D, third dimensional reality. And then you begin to realize that this third dimensional reality construct is built upon the same type of frequencies and energy manipulations as the lucid dreams and as the astral projections. Okay? Then you start to realize that in the 3D now, that really all you're looking at is another version of yourself. Because through the astral projection and the lucidity within the astral projection, you begin to unlock aspects of your consciousness which allow you to become more telepathic and more empathic to any and all physical matter and living matter. The consciousness which resides in the subatomic particles of matter, which is vibration, which is light bent at a certain frequency that follows a certain pattern which tells the object what weight it is, how it smells, how it sounds, the feel of it. It's basically all the information within the pattern of the light frequency, which is bent light, which gives it a reference within space-time, like this Rubik's Cube or this yo-yo. This third dimension very much mirrors all the other dimensions, so you end up being able to manipulate the third dimension just the same as you're able to manipulate the lucid dreams and the astral projection realms. However, as you get higher in the astral projection realms, the amount you're able to manipulate lessens less and less and less as you start entering more astral realms where the beings of consciousness are also doing this. So it's like you're hitting competition, and the more people are trying to manipulate reality, the less reality can become manipulated because you got more than one person trying to do it. And then what happens is you reach a point where everyone is really, you basically live amongst, should I say this word? Gods. Beings who are accessing the source of consciousness and who understand how to manipulate reality on every level to the point where they're able to shapeshift their consciousness out of their body and push it into weather storms. They're able to push their consciousness into the elements like the clouds, fire, earth, wind. And by doing so, they're able to take on the entity or the energetical pattern of that new consciousness within their being. And by pushing their energy into that consciousness, that conscious construct of water or the elements, they're able to bend the elements at their will and literally become elementals to the point where they're able to make things happen like earthquakes and violent wind tornado storms and all this other stuff. But that deals with consciousness and how to manipulate your own consciousness to become more than what you already think you are. That's really at a very high level of understanding, and I will make a video on that at some point if I remember through this video. I'll make a note of it. But after you find out that this place is lucid, what happens is in the 3D, you start looking at people, you start seeing yourself, you start seeing the energies that are going through them, and you start understanding how to push thoughts into their head, how to make them say what they want to, what they think they want to say. You know, you get to trick them into thinking that they're saying or that they're even thinking by their own free will, and really what's happening is you're just making them think a specific way, you know. And you can go so deep with this, you can make them plan out their entire day, go out for the entire week if they want to, and everything that they've done is something that you've made them do prior to the experience. Before they've even had their experiences, you put it in motion, and you set their own experiences out in a specific way for them to get a certain amount of understanding out of anything that they want in order to help them become more lucid. That's what I do, okay? I make people more lucid. I teach people what they need to know in order to become more lucid, and I make it possible for people to manipulate reality and to become lucid from these 3 stages, you know, from the bad to the lucid to the astrals, okay? Bad, lucid, astrals. It goes 3D, where you get attacked by everything, okay, in the negative 3D aspect, and then the lucidity in the dreams, which deals with your own consciousness, which is why your own consciousness is trapping you within the 3D, okay? Once you break out that lucidity, you end up within the astrals, which is what I was in when I was 16, you know, and that's what I was in when I was 8 and down. It was when I was 8 to 16, I went through a period of life where these abilities really did shrink, and I became like a zombie, like asleep, you know what I mean? And as I woke up when I was 16. I know I'm rushing, that's because I've only got 9 minutes left. I'm trying to get all of this into the video. If not, I'll do a second part, and as I keep doing these videos, what I'll do is I'll try to slow it down a little bit more. But the only reason why I'm speaking fast is because I want you to get all this information very quickly, so that if you misunderstand me or anything, just rewind it. Rewind this video, play it back as many times as you want. But the next part, after you do this, what happens is you come to the conclusion that I did, where all realities, 3rd dimension, your dream realms, even the astrals, are all constructs of the larger consciousness, of the source consciousness, which you should be vibrating at. And when you vibrate at source consciousness, what happens is you realize that everything is an aspect of your consciousness, and you end up becoming what is called omnipresent, where you are literally in everything. This is like you're plugged into everything else. You unplug from the matriarchal society, which keeps you trapped and keeps you in a state of delusion and complete compression and depression, and then you plug into everything else like it's more than... You plug into everything. I don't know if you've ever seen the film Lucy. There is a clip in Lucy where she does this at the end. The only reason why I watched that movie is because I knew that if they kept true to the actual ascension process, that maybe they should have everything in line. Everything should be correct. As I'm watching the film, I should be able to tick off my checklist if that director knew his stuff. You know what I mean? And at the end, that is exactly what happened. She became omnipresent and she lost her body. She didn't need to have it anymore. Okay? She could definitely reincarnate into one. She became pretty powerful. But when you become omnipresent and you realize that everything is real, your dreams, which are an extension of consciousness, manifested into a new dimension of space, which leads the soul into having another experience in order to become more awake, become completely real. Okay, they're not fake anymore. Okay, get that word out of your head. Once you get to this stage when you become omnipresent, you can push your consciousness into everything. Everything else makes sense, and you get a higher amount of knowledge and understanding of how everything else is structured. Now, I have this information. I can't give it out in these videos. I'm not sure I should. I have the feeling I should tell people how to get to these stages, which is why I'm making these videos. And it's why I also run consultations. If you're interested in that, check it out on my About page. You can email me. Only email me if you're interested in consultations. I'm not taking on free students. I'm only going to say this a particular amount of times. I might actually have to say it every time in my new videos because no one seems to get in the hint. If you're willing to pay for it, I'll teach you. But other than that, I'm too busy. getting back onto the story. Well, after you've done the astral, you've ticked that off, you're getting really good at that, you can go back whenever you want, and then you get to the point where you've become lucid in 3D, and then you get to the point where you start understanding that every time you go to sleep, you end up experiencing a parallel use reality. This is when you end up experiencing another version of yourself's life. And when you experience their life, you have all the memories of this 3D consciousness who's implanted into that parallel life. So you remember who you are, where you came from. And on top of that, you get all of their memories too. So you can go along with it and it's fine. Once you get to that point, you're pretty advanced at this stage, okay? Next, you get onto the next stage, which is what I'm at now, which is when you're going to love this. And I did it this morning. And I might actually tell you the entire story. I've only got 5 minutes left. But to sum it all up, where I'm at the moment, once I've done all my astral projection, I'm all lucid and everything. Now, I'm actually... Okay, now the reason why when you become omnipresent, you realize that everything is real is simply because when you get to this stage, you realize how life, consciousness, has manifested in all these realities, all these dimensions, prior to what you think you already know. Deliberately so that your consciousness, at whatever level you're already at, can achieve a self-awareness, a reflection, to the point where you can evolve to the next stage. You're constantly trying to evolve, and this is why you're always questioning things, why I was always questioning things, and why I always knew that something wasn't quite right. This is the soul inside scratching at the ego, telling you what to do and how to do it. The source of consciousness can only deliberately change the outcome of its own experience by giving it an experience in which it can reach certain types of awareness, certain types of consciousness. So it will do this by creating an existence that even when you're asleep, it will create an existence, a simulation just like it's 3D, where you believe that it is real for that precise moment of time in order for you to get what you need out of it, okay? That's very much what happens in 3D. You're unconscious until you get what you need out of that unconscious experience, and then you become conscious and lucid, and then you get to the next stage where your soul will begin to give you what you need in order to get to a certain degree of consciousness. And it will do this by knocking down the walls of assimilation. It will show you who and what everything is, and you get an abundance of accessed wealth of knowledge on how and why the structure of reality is composed of these people, these actors within the experience, and these reflections of yourself. And 3D literally becomes lucid, it literally becomes a dream. Now, I do have time to show you this. I've just restarted a new video so I can talk a bit slower, because now I've got 27 minutes to tell you what happened to me last night, which is why I'm making this video today instead of tomorrow, so it's fresh in my mind. As I woke up at my new current stage of evolution, before I went to sleep, I chose to dream or create the simulation for my consciousness to experience a reality where I would become more conscious of this third dimensional reality. Okay? All dimensions are real. The fact that you think that something is fake is ridiculous, and I'll tell you why. It's to do with language, okay? If the energy which makes you believe, that belief system behind that word, is absent of the word, okay, then the word no longer has any backing. And if it has no backing, then technically the word shouldn't exist. So this is why you get people who say, I don't believe in this, I don't believe in that, therefore it doesn't concern me. This is simply because that person's reached a degree of consciousnness. It may be higher, it may be lower, I really don't know on their behalf. I'm not experiencing their reality, but in my own reality, these words, because they've lost their backing, because I understand it on a holistic, overstanding way, no longer has power in my reality. It no longer has an existence, or it can no longer assimilate a belief structure which is degrading of my own process. So I can't believe in nothing. It just doesn't work. there's no backing behind it within my processing. So to me, everything is real because I've had the adequate training, the adequate experiences in order for me to come to these conclusions. Okay? It's like this for a lot of words. I'm going to get into that in depth in my new video, which I'm going to do on how to spell people, cast spells through grammar, which is derived from the Latin grimoire, which means book of spells. I'm going to go more into vibration and frequencies and just speaking and how that actually programs the person subconscious in order to make them behave and choose and make certain decisions in order to impact their life dramatically just by the sound of words and vowels, and how the words and vowels have certain vibrations which change and alter the structure of the frequencies within the nervous system, which changes the way the brain works, which changes the way that you behave. This is why names are so important. And in order to get more into that, you need to look into astrology. But I'm not going to talk about that in this video. In this video, I'm going to talk about my experience when I was back in the simulation, which I gave for myself. Because you get to a point where your dreams start teaching you more awareness. Your dreams become the access of information rather than the computer or the TV or the book. And if it's all self-guidance, it's all self-knowledge, then you really can't go wrong. You really can't. And I'll remember I was in this dream, or this simulation, this realm of thoughts. And at this point, I understand that everything's all me. I'm always at a constant state of lucidity, even in this realm. And in this realm that I'm in, what happens is it starts off on a boat, and we're in the middle of the ocean, okay? And there's about 4 of us, 4 of my friends and me, okay? And each friend represents a state of consciousness which people are going through, okay? I got my materialistic friend who likes to do a lot of drugs, who finds life very hard and he's trying to escape. He's with me. I got my friend who's very knees deep or elbow deep or neck deep into the subconscious worries and the energies of society, to the point where he's living a reality which many other people are living, completely ununique from everyone else. Because he is like everyone else. And he's so unconscious, buried deep beneath his own ego, that his life has become a living hell. He's now in prison. And he was also in my dream. I had the female who was in my dream, which was the female girl who feels intuitively that life should be better, that they have a role in life which is naturally driven from their own subconscious, which should be exercised in a particular way, which maybe they don't know how to exercise because they don't have the knowledge. So they're basically truth seekers, is what I call them. That's what I used to be, a truth seeker. You're looking for the truth, you're questioning everything. And this was the female who had come out of a particular state of materialistic need, which is very, very surprising that females can do that, and they can do that. And she came out of a sexual desire program, which was also cast on her. So she's coming out of spells and she's becoming lucid. And she was also with me. Okay? And then I had another guy who I believe was my brother, who was the guy who saw me as the complete opposite and was using me as the opposite as an excuse to become more of my opposite. And he was also in the boat. Okay? So people from all walks of life was in this boat with me. The guy who was completely lucid, completely omnipresent of what's about to happen. And we get in these scuba suits, right? And we jump into the water. And as we jump into the water, I'm looking at the girl who's looking for truth. And she's in front of me, diving deep within this dark, murky ocean, looking for the truth. And I can just see her fin, you know, the fake fins you put on to swim. And I'm putting my hand out so I can feel it, so I know where she is, because I can't see anything in this water, right? My light's going off and everything. And as we're swimming deeper and deeper and deeper, what I notice is we're no longer swimming down, but we're swimming up. It's like the entire ocean flips back upside down. And as we're going down, but really we're swimming up, we break water. As soon as we break water, we become unconscious. All of us, right? Next thing I know is we're all standing in the exact same place, across the road from my house. And we're looking at each other thinking, what's going on here? Now, I'm the only one who knows exactly what's going on, but everyone else is completely speechless. And as we walk into my house, there are actors or simulations of people who I wish to bring into my life. And as I'm having these interactions, my body's frequency within the simulation is changing frequency in order to bring about the change for these people to come into my environment, right? And as I'm studying my own frequency and I'm playing with it in order to make events happen within the household, I find this female who is resonating at my, close to my own frequency. She's getting there. And I think to myself, well, is it possible that I can experience love with this female rather than the sexual desire which most people are programmed with? Because I haven't actually tried this yet in the 3D. I haven't tried to have a spiritual relationship with another female, which a lot of people are doing nowadays. I haven't tried it. I've had the opportunity to do it, but I haven't done it because I've just been so preoccupied with other things. I just haven't had the time. I can make time, this is an excuse, but if I was to make time, it would deviate me from other things that I need to be doing. So I see her and I think to myself, okay, I'm going to try this out here in this realm first before I do it in 3D. And that's exactly what I did. I tried it out and it was fun and I had a blast and it was great, you know? This is literally like me living two lives at the same time. Which is why I'm telling you this story, because what you're going to get to when you get to my stage of evolution is, what happened was I needed to go to the loo. So I went to the loo in the simulation and I thought, wait a minute, I shouldn't do this here, because if I do this here, I could end up doing it back in 3D as I wake up in my bed. But I ended up deliberately waking myself up in 3D and then going to the toilet. After I went to the loo, I thought to myself, right, I'm going to vibrate my frequency of my body, consciousness, the subconscious of my body, in order to keep it attuned to the same location which I want to go to once my body falls asleep. Easy. At this point, once you understand about frequency and how carrying your frequency manipulates your situations, which was the simulations which I was going through more in depth within this simulation of this dream, what happens is you end up going to the same place you altered your frequency. I just vibrate my frequency, and I could feel the frequency in my body of my body trying to fall asleep. So I just let it do what it wanted to do. Okay, so I just let myself fall asleep, having faith that I did the right thing in order to get myself in the right place or the right experience afterwards, which is when my body fell asleep. And I ended up waking up in my own hallway in the house at the exact same space, point in time at which I was in before I woke up. So the dream basically carried on. And I did this 3 times on purpose, drilling it into me so that I can do it whenever I want. And tonight, every night for the next month, I'm going to do the same thing and carry on in that simulational reality from this simulational reality. So I end up living 2 lives at the same time. I'm going to do that constantly. And I'm going to tandem back and forth deliberately so that I can play out certain experiences there before I do it here. Reason being is because it happened a lot faster there than it does here. Now this experience is very quick when you become extremely lucid, but there was responsive, like really fast. So I'm going to do that for the next couple of weeks. Now this is going to do it for dreams. However, in the next 16 minutes I'm going to be talking about something which you're going to need to open your awareness to. And that is the ability to see forward at a particular point in space. Okay, now you've got all of these dimensions, all of these experiences which are going on at the same time. Now the reason why they're going on at the same time, and I've explained this in one of my previous videos, is because if you look at a film strip, because all of your awarenesses are focused on one frame of the film strip, you're going to be experiencing that one frame. But if you were to pull back your awareness and look at all the frames, what happens is you end up seeing the fact that you are experiencing all of these at the same time, because if you wasn't, you wouldn't be able to direct your consciousness through each frame, which gives the illusion of space and time. Okay? If your body didn't exist somewhere else, at a particular point of space, you wouldn't be able to experience that space. And the fact that I'm able to move my hand through space shows that there are many versions of me within this point of space which are doing this in order for me to direct my consciousness through the movement of space. You know what I mean? Otherwise, if that wasn't the case, you wouldn't be able to move. You wouldn't be three-dimensional, you'd be like 1D, where you're just static. And you probably wouldn't be able to think then neither, because in order for you to think, the light needs to be able to move through different dimensions of space and frequencies. So you're quite literally a multi-dimensional being in every aspect of the word. But a lot of people don't understand this because they don't get into things such as astral projection, which is where most of this information comes from. Okay, again, if you want to set up a consultation with me, they are paid. Go to my About page, my email's there. Now, I was explaining that to my mum the other day. We did a test where I wrote out on a piece of paper heads, tails, heads, tails, heads, heads, tails, and I flipped the coin over and over again, and then I showed her, I told her to remember the sequence, and when she remembered the sequence or where it landed on, I showed her the piece of paper, and it was right. And then I explained to her what I just explained to you with the video strip, and she was so impressed, and it made so much sense to her, and she couldn't refuse it as truth, because it made too much sense, which kind of made her feel kind of inadequate and freaked out a little bit, which is perfectly understandable. And then what I did was the night after, I deliberately vibrate my frequency at the frequency I felt within my being whilst I was doing this experiment, and then I laid down to sleep. I didn't sleep. My body went to sleep. I didn't sleep. I astral projected. And I astral projected to a particular frame which is way above all the other frames, which gave me an experience where I ended up seeing events before they happened. Now, going forward in these events is much like going backwards to your own memory, only you're lucid to the point where you're aware of all the memories before, so you're aware of what you did in order to get to this future event. What I saw, I'm not sure I should talk about on here, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because it's to do with my own life, not to do with like a major catastrophe or something like that, which I can do also. If you guys get into the last video I'm going to upload, which is to do with energy and frequency, you're going to be able to do this too. If you guys get into astral projection, you're going to be able to do this too. If you guys get into lucidity in your dreams, you're going to be able to do this too. You can start from scratch and then progress, or you can bounce around. The fact of the matter is, most people have no choice. You're going to start from scratch if you don't do anything, and you're going to become lucid throughout life, and you're going to start ascending. You have no choice. Everyone is going to be faced with decisions which are going to make them question their own existence and question where they are in life and question what it is that they're actually doing and if they're actually happy. And that's where it starts. It just starts with a question. And what I saw was I was across the road, and I was standing in front of my house, and there were family members gathered on the hill and across the road from me, and we were all dressed to go to a funeral. And my auntie looked at me and said, "What's wrong with you? Aren't you ready to go to your nan's funeral? You know, my mum's funeral. She's devastated. Across the road, she's been crying for days on end." And I could access the memories before the experience because I'm in that point of space. It's not like all my focus was directed at one point. I can also access the other frames behind. And so my mum's been crying, and we're all getting ready to go to this funeral. And then my sister comes out the car. And as she comes out the car, she's got another pregnant belly. She's pregnant again. Which is funny because her last pregnancy I predicted in front of her face. And that completely freaked her out because there was loads of us in the room. This was in 3D. We were in my living room and my kitchen. And we were in the kitchen, and she came out of the toilet and looked straight at me. And I said, "Are you pregnant?" Like really loud in front of everyone. As soon as I said that, everyone just freaked out and thought, "What, are you pregnant?" She was like, "No, I'm not pregnant." A week later, she went and got a pregnancy test because I freaked her out that much, and it turned out she was pregnant with another boy. So she's going to have a third kid, and my nan's going to die, my mom's going to be upset. That's what I got out from that experience, and I can enter this state of consciousness whenever I want and see forward. What I've been recently trying to do, alongside living two lives within two different dimensions as they carry on in tandem, is I've been trying to figure out a way to get my consciousness back. Because if you think about visions, when a vision comes along, it's not like you're trying to bring about a vision, it will just flash within your mind. It will come in and it will flash and then disappear. But if you've ever had those visions of past experiences, it feels like you're actually there. You can feel the sun, you can feel the foods that you're eating. It feels like you're actually living it again. And I remember a time when I astral projected. This is an astral projection experience, and I made an audio about this so that it stayed fresh. It's on my phone, but I still remember it clear as day today, as I did a couple of weeks ago. And I ended up projecting to the same place that I normally do, which is on this field, right? And after this field, I ended up seeing a little girl who was telling me about how time and space was. She was teaching me basically how everything was like. And we were having this debate saying, no, people are like this because they're like this in this dimension and this dimension. And we were really going at it. In the end, she just went, oh, I looked that way. And as soon as I looked back, she was gone, right? So I ran through this hall, or to the building, and I opened the door to get into the hallway. And when I stood into the hallway, I ended up seeing another house, and I was outside again in another location. And as I looked into the window of this location, I could see myself as a younger version of myself having an astral projection experience, which I remember to this present day back when I was his age. So I'm literally in two places at once. And as I creep through the window, I make myself invisible, so none of the entities that could see me in there, because I knew what was going on, could see me. And as I levitated back up against the wall, I'm hovering above my younger self, who's having an astral projection experience in this point in space and time, which I was experiencing, not 3D, but in the astral realm. And boy, is he scared. He's scared. He's not used to all this stuff happening to him. He's getting to the point where he's crying a lot because he doesn't want to go to sleep. And he's in his bed, the younger version of myself, who I've also had this experience because I'm literally gone backwards. I can see him, or me, and he's with an entity who's laying next to him. She's touching his hair, saying it's okay, everything's going to be alright. But she's lying, because now I've got all this awareness, and now I'm where I'm at. I'm watching her lie to my face, and I can feel the energy off her, and she's very deceptive. But back then, I was so young that I didn't realize what was going on. And then I said to myself, which is weird because I can remember me saying this even when I was back then as a kid. I said to myself, get away from her, she's lying. Okay? She doesn't have your best goals and interests here. She doesn't want you to be happy and kind. She just wants to leech off your negative energy. Get away from her. She wants to be around you as much as she can. Because a lot of souls or a lot of entities out there, negative entities, need the recognition to tell them that they're alive. It makes them feel noticed, alive, and knowledgeable. This is when you're able to see them, they're able to see you. They don't leave you alone that often. You have to become powerful. You have to get over fear, and I'm going to remake that video on my YouTube channel. But I remember hearing myself say this to myself when I was a kid, and I remember not being able to see myself. And I remember hearing this disembodied voice and thinking, where is it coming from? Who is this person? And at a later time when I'm astral projecting, laying on my roof, watching myself down, because I'm levitating above myself, I say to the younger self of myself, I say to the younger me, don't worry, she can't see me. You're completely fine. So I start to make my face solid so that I can see myself, so that the younger me can see me. And I said, don't worry, she can't see me. Shouldn't have said that. Because as soon as I said that, she looked directly at my face, turned, She was pissed, right? And she says, yes, I can. And she points directly at me. And I freak out. I think, what? She can see me. How can she see me? It's like she saw me the entire time I was there and was pretending not to see me. And then all I did from then is I just shot straight down, grounded myself on the floor, and then I just opened my bedroom door, ran through it, got as far as I could away from that place. That was a... That was different. Because there are other times where I've also done stuff like that and I've thought to myself, does it really go that deep? Astral projection? Because it does. Because there was another moment also where I remembered I was sat in bed and I was having these visions of past life experiences when I was younger. And I remembered when I was younger crying in my bed. And I remembered crying in my bed because everything was getting too much. I didn't understand what was going on with me. I was popping out my body, seeing all this kind of stuff, and I was breaking down, right, when I was a child. And I remember the feeling of somebody putting their hand on me and as if to say everything's going to be all right, you know, comforting me. And then as I felt that feeling, when I was reliving the experience when I was younger, a feeling came about within my own body which matched the same feeling. Now, the reason why this is so strange is because when I was remembering it, I was the one putting my hand on my younger self's shoulder saying it's going to be okay. So it was like when I was getting the visions, I was the one that went back and astral projected and comforted my younger self. Because it was like I was in two places at the same time, and it happened again. This is twice it's happened since I've started astral projecting recently with the stuff that I'm doing. So I'm constantly going backwards, but it seems the only time I can go backwards is when I'm in an astral projection state. It's when I can view other versions of myself, other previous me's astral projecting, other experiences that I've already done in the astral when I was younger. That seems to be the only time I can go backwards. But when I go forwards, it's always a vision, and then I can see how things are going to play out, and it's often devastating. But most of the time it's good. Most of the time it's good. Now I've got 3 minutes. I'm going to tell you one more thing. When I left that room, that girl, she saw me, that woman, that entity, whatever that thing was, I ended up being pulled into a room. I'm going to say this on YouTube because I think that some people out there are practicing a form of summoning to get my attention. Because I ended up going into a room of this girl, she's quite young, maybe 12 or 13, and it was like she was waiting for me. And once I was summoned into her room, I noticed that I wasn't the only one in her room. There was another 3 or 4 disembodied bodies and voices of beings that did not have her best interest in heart. So if a lot of you out there are trying to summon beings or summon people from the astral or from the physical to the astral to your room, don't do it unless you have somebody who's been doing it for years and years and decades who know exactly what they're doing. Because when I ended up at that person's house in 3D in my astral form, she was young, she was naive, and a lot of stuff came into her room and she had no idea was there. No idea. But I was able to pick up on everything. So I think that's going to be about do it in this video. I've got a minute left. The reason why I'm making this video is to make you conscious of where you are, where you need to be, and the progression and the help that you may need in order to progress this far. When this stuff happens to you, I've missed out a lot of information of how it happens and what happens and what you're going to go through, but when it comes to making the awareness and your subconscious conscious, all of these goodies and these golden eggs come out which make life a heck of a lot easier. And 3 people since I've made my channel wanted to talk about time travel. So I decided today to make a video on time travel, but also how you can progress to get to that stage that I'm at. Again, if you want to book a consultation with me, go to the About section on my page. It's the only way you're going to contact me. And if you're going to contact me, again, I'm not taking on free students. So I'm Ryan JC, stay tuned for my channel, and I'll speak to you guys pretty soon.
Where do I begin? Back forever, before that was lost, stealing ideas, songs and stuff, and in the walls and the mushroom clouds. Ran back beloved before the towers came down, joining the Beatles and saving my mom, talking to dad before the damage was done. Walking the moon, inventing the spoon, the lottery numbers, will I be